Hello, welcome back to the channel. I am here to basically tell you my top 10 films of March. So, without further ado, let's go and get it. Number 10 is Imaginary. So, Imaginary is definitely the worst movie I've seen in March, following suit with Night Swim, coming out in January. And basically, Blumhouse I don't know, they just keep losing the touch. I really was kind of excited for this movie when I saw that they were doing Imaginary Friends horror. And you know, with the other Imaginary Friends movie coming out this year called Ifs, being more kid-friendly, I was really excited for this one because that's a cool premise. You know, you have imaginary friends, which that is kind of creepy, having kids talk to, you know, something that's not real. And so I really was like, okay, this is an easy slam out of the park. And apparently for them, it was not. Because it follows suit with everything that they always do wrong with Blumhouse movies, and they always give you all this exposition that does not need to be needed, and they kind of lack on the scares except for one or two, but one or two in an hour and a half movie doesn't really go, yay, that was worth my ticket price. And so with that, number 9 is a movie that I'm actually thought was going to be my number 10 or lower, Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2. Now, ironically, even though this movie is ranked pretty low, I don't think it's awful, just because when you add in the fact of this not coming from a big studio, they kind of blew some of these other movies I'm about to tell you out of the park, like especially Imaginary. This movie is not good. It's not Citizen Kane or anything like that, but compared to the first one, I really think the character designs are on point this time. The gore still has a little work to be needed. Some of the kills are cool and creative, and you know, the gore's kind of there, but a lot of it's kind of that awful looking CGI from the original, so a lot of that's not changed. But the acting for me has really stood out, because in the original one, the acting was just kind of, oh no, is that Pooh? And that was it. Now it's, you know, more grounded. I like the realism, well, not the realism, but the realism in the acting. I like that the acting was definitely more improved. They did some recasts, some much needed changes. And overall, I think this movie was okay for a Winnie the Pooh horror movie. And so with that, number 8 is Kung Fu Panda 4. Now, this movie has a lot of problems, a lot that I'm not going to get into. Go watch my review on that. Just to talk about how awful that movie is. But the reason why I didn't like this movie is not because of the acting, which is fine, not because of the animation, which is pretty good. It's not as good as the others, but still pretty good. This is a problem for me with animation. So, Disney kind of started it. DreamWorks is kind of finishing it. So, Disney always had the problem of making sequels that didn't exist. So, it's like Cars. Cars is really good. They kind of failed with Cars 2. They made Cars 3. Cars 3 is great. Leave it alone. I don't need a Cars 4. You know, Toy Story 1, 2, 3, all goats. My personal favorite is 3. I really love that movie. And then they made Toy Story 4 and kind of ruined some of the story, because a lot of the things that closed in Toy Story 3, a lot of the way that it ended, they had to make something happen. And I don't like that. And so with Kung Fu Panda 3 having an ending where Po finds his family and like everything's kind of a-okay, not Toy Story, but Kung Fu Panda 4 kind of comes in here and just kind of doesn't really do anything for me. Grown or not, I love Jack Black, I love Kung Fu Panda. The action scenes in this movie are on point, I will give them that, but as far as the story, it really failed me heavily. Alrighty, for number 7, we're going right into an Amazon Prime original movie, Ricky Stenicki. Now, this movie caught me a little off guard, because while I was excited to watch it because I love John Cena and I love Zac Efron, especially if you just watched Zac Efron's performance in Iron Claw, I thought going back to the comedy scene, you know, might be for the best, because I love 17 again. One of my favorite comedies out there. Love that movie. I think it's highly underrated. And so this movie really doesn't fail me anywhere. It's just I think the other movies are better. So this movie, as you have seen, stars John Cena and Zac Efron and a bunch of other people. And basically, John Cena's just out here showing off his ass, okay? He is doing good. He's showing that he has the acting chops, and overall, I really appreciate this movie for what it was. It gives you a bunch of good laughs, not a whole lot. And while this isn't going to be in my top 10 of all time at the end of this year coming December, for right now, being in the top 10 for March is very good for a film like this. And Prime Video is just showing that they got the bangers while Netflix is out here putting out some 10 out of 10 shows, but 0 out of 10 movies. Prime is out here putting out 10 out of 10 shows and 7 or 8 out of 10 movies. So with that, we'll go into number 6. Number 6 is Late Night with the Devil. Now, thought this movie would be ranked a lot higher on my list. This is because, for me, possession horror is a little iffy. When you get into like the Conjuring films and like you get into demonic stuff and this and that type of stuff does kind of creep me out. While I love horror movies, and a lot of horror movies don't really do anything for me, like, you know, Scream, you know, Michael Myers, like, it's like I watch them more just because I like the story, I like the kills, like the gore, stuff like that's fun. Don't really go for the horror. Now, every now and then you'll have a movie that sneaks up on you, like It Follows or like Hereditary or something like that, that ends up actually kind of being a little scary and creepy. And just more recently, I actually watched The Blackcoat's Daughter, and I really thought that that was very good when I watched it on Max the other day, because certain scenes in that kind of creeps you out. And so with this movie, I liked the 70s vibe. I really digged it. I liked how the camera work was and how it was kind of like a found footage film. And I liked how in the audience you were like a part of like this documentary. And I really enjoyed that. But outside of that, you know, there is one scene that I'm not going to lie is a little creepy. But outside of that, the rest of the scenes are just kind of okay. It ends with an ending that just kind of leaves you wanting more. And overall, I don't think this movie is overrated because I do see the potential and I do see how other people give us a 10 out of 10. So this is one of these movies where when people give it a 10 out of 10, I'm not going to disagree with them. You know, I can see that. It's just for me, my personal taste. I know there's other horror movies coming out this year, like maybe something like Cuckoo, that, you know, I might end up enjoying more, or something like Immaculate that's coming up later on this list that I actually did enjoy more than this movie. At number 5, movie, it's a little controversial, and I don't know why, because I feel like we saw different movies. Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire. Now, while I don't love the title, and there's a lot of things in this movie that I didn't love because I think there's way too many characters, and a lot of people don't get their own spotlight, you know, because it's not like a part 1, part 2 type event, like it's just 1 2-hour movie. You know, I still love the movie, you know? I really liked the opening scene. I really liked the main characters that we did focus on. And overall, I like the villain. I do wish that the third act would have been a lot bigger with that villain, because it's one of those type of deals where the villain shows up, you know, big bad boom, you think stuff's going down, and then they kind of just figure out a way to defeat it really quickly. But outside of that, I thought it's a Ghostbusters movie through and through. There's a lot of good humor, a lot of good, you know, set pieces, and I'm like, I don't know what else was really bad about it. You know, I kept sitting over there thinking, is this as good as Afterlife? No. But that's okay, though. Like, I don't know what people want from a Ghostbusters movie. It's Ghostbusters, okay? It's kind of the Winnie the Pooh movie. The reason why I was hating that much on it, because at the end of the day, even though there's a lot of problems with it, it's Winnie the Pooh. Like, I don't get people. Like, I don't understand why they compare this to something like, you know, a Top Gun Maverick or a Killers of the Flower Moon. Like, this is Ghost. It's not the same level. This movie has the heart, it has the charm. Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of stuff you can cut out on it where you can include more characters, because some of that Finn Wolfhard, his characters don't show up in the second act at all. But overall, I think that it served its purpose. It tells a good story. Like I said, it's got good heart, and I pretty much enjoyed it. Coming in at number 4, we've got a movie that I thought would have not been this high, but this was Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. Now, Godzilla x Kong: New Empire is a movie I actually just recently watched, and I loved it. Like, loved it. I don't actually think there's any problems with this movie, which is crazy. Like, we're getting into like the top 4 territory where like all these movies I'm like basically like, it's like an 8 to 10, okay? This movie's awesome. I didn't really love the last Godzilla and Kong movie. I liked it for what it was, but I thought towards the end, like where they kind of throw in stuff like Mechagodzilla, at this point we're just doing Batman versus Superman. It's like, oh my god, Doomsday's showing up. Let's do something where we team up. Now this movie retcons a little bit of that because Godzilla and Kong are not besties. And I really like that, but there's one tiny complaint I have about this movie, which is why it's not ranked up super high. Mainly because I feel like Godzilla didn't need to be in this movie at all. This is pretty much a Kong movie. This is like almost like a sequel to Kong Skull Island, because the way that movie merges with Godzilla versus Kong, you know, Kong is looking for his family, and when he finds out, like, even like the villain is a Kong villain, and like pretty much Godzilla's just there for the power. Like he needs the power, he needs the juice, and so here's Kong. But overall, I thought the action sequences were incredible. I wish the third act was even longer because of how much I loved it. I thought the humor was there. It's already being memed, and overall, I think this movie was pretty damn good. Coming in at number 3 is a movie that I love so much. This is top 3 territory. This is 9 to 10 out of 10. So this movie, little movie that you probably know about, little Prime Video movie, came out a couple weeks ago. Roadhouse, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. Now, if you watch the original Roadhouse, you know that this movie should be good. It should be a slam in the park, and this is exactly what it is. I saw not really mixed reactions, but kind of more like it's a 6 to 7 out of 10. No, it's not. The final fight is awesome. It's like something out of a Yakuza game. Conor McGregor is so good as a villain, it's crazy. A little bit of spotty CGI around the boat stuff, but I'm ignoring that because the rest of this movie is a banger. Jake Gyllenhaal is a force to be reckoned with in this movie. I love the UFC twist. I love everything about the story. I love the tweaks that they did to the story. I really thought the action sequences with the way the camera was panned and filmed was just so good. I really liked the way the action was filmed in this movie, and I hope that they continue that going forward with other movies. You know, like any other action movie. Not even a sequel to this, which, consider how much money is bringing in the Prime, I wouldn't doubt if that gets announced anytime now. But yeah, just love this movie. Really wish it went to theaters, and that's my number 3. So coming in at number 2 is Sydney Sweeney's Immaculate. Now, this is a horror movie done right. Take notes, Imaginary, please. Okay, so Immaculate is a little weird for me because most horror movies like this that have nuns and this and that, like kind of The Nun, I don't really like. Not even like a sacrilegious thing. I just really don't like them. I think they're boring. I think their horror is just kind of lame. And in this movie, the horror isn't necessarily scary, but the reason why this is so high up is because of the performance of Sydney Sweeney. Sydney Sweeney gives a gut-wrenching performance, and literally, this is one of the best third acts I've seen in a horror movie in a while. Not going to give anything away, but just that last act, I will just say, ends on such a great note. I don't think it's, oh my God, my mind's blown, craziest thing I've seen in my life, like people were saying, but I do think it's really good. And like I said, I think the acting carries this movie. I think this movie is also very mature. And what I mean by that is that it takes itself seriously. There are crazy things they tell you in this movie, and I feel like a lot of people will sit there and think, that's kind of crazy, but the way the movie carries it is, this is serious, this is happening right now, this has happened, before. Like, they give you all this stuff. And I really thought that this movie was very well made, and I really want to see more from Sydney Sweeney in the horror genre, which I think we're getting soon. And so, yeah, force to be reckoned with out there. Sydney Sweeney out there giving a top-notch performance. Hey there, Chocolatiers. I was editing this video and putting the trailer clips in it, and it just kind of dawned on me that I just didn't put Dune Part 2 in this list at all. So, basically just subtract numbers. So, my number 1 favorite movie, I basically tied it with Arthur the King, and I also tied it with, I'm trying to think, Love Lies Bleeding. So, just put those in a trilogy for number 2. I know that's an awful way to think of a list, but just tie them with Immaculate. I am so sorry, because number 1 is actually Dune Part 2. And so, continue watch this review, and I'll film some for Dune Part 2. Well. Looks like we've made it to my number 1. Now, my number 1 is actually not necessarily divisive, but it's kind of crazy for me because there are 2 movies tied for number 1. I kept sitting over here thinking, I think they're both 10 out of 10s for their own reasons, and I don't think one's better than the other necessarily. I think they're both very good. So my number 10 is both Love Lies Bleeding and Arthur the King. Now, I'm going to start with Love Lies Bleeding because I know a lot of you are probably tweaking out going, Arthur the King? Yes. So Love Lies Bleeding really just took me by storm. I was hyped for it, so a little bit of that factored in there. But A24, they don't really miss, rarely, at least for me. And overall, I just thought this movie was pretty good. It gets into, the late 80s vibe with the bodybuilding and stuff. And I really loved all the performances. I guess the only problem with this movie that I would have if I had to make up a problem was that I just wish that the runtime was a little bit longer, because some of these scenes, especially like the second end of the first act, really start to ramp up, and this mystery that you're trying to solve, trying to figure out, I really loved it. I loved all the characters. Katie O'Brien, she was awesome. Trying to see more from her, because I remember seeing her in Mandalorian. And actually, I might have seen her in something else, but that's the main thing right now. It's just on my head. Thinking about seeing her in Mandalorian. And I really just, I was like, her acting's good, but whatever. But in this movie, she really shines. That's why I think she's, on the poster. And I really think that they just know what they have here. They know that they have struck gold with her in this movie. And with that, we're going to Arthur the King. So Arthur the King stars Mark Wahlberg, and it's basically I'm just going to end it here. It's a dog movie. And so I was like, I love Mark Wahlberg. Didn't expect much from this. I actually watched this movie before I watched Love Lies Bleeding. And off the chain. There's nothing wrong with this movie at all. Based on a true story, I really loved all the performances with everybody. Even the dog. Like, this movie carries so much weight through the dog, so much emotion, makes you care for every single character. Even the people that kind of act like pricks at the beginning, that makes you care for them. The character building is so good. This journey that we take on this race that these people are going on, you feel like you're there with them. It's this type of movie where you just feel energized after watching it. You just feel like you want to run a marathon. Alrighty. Sorry about the camera footage, but my number one favorite film of March is Dune Part 2. And actually, just because I'm sorry that I forgot it, I will go on and say that it's my favorite movie of this year so far. Dune Part 2 is one of the greatest things I've seen on screen. Not only from Timothée Chalamet's performance and Zendaya's performance, but being a lover of the original book. I haven't read the rest of them. I do need to, though. But even then, I love the book changes. And this is coming from Denis Villeneuve, who just pretty much just makes greatness, from Arrival to Blade Runner 2049 and so on and so on. And, even people that didn't like Dune Part 1 for what it was, I'm seeing them come out of the theater loving Dune Part 2. Dune Part 2 is just one of those movies that comes once in a, blue moon, kind of like a Top Gun Maverick or something that just blows you out of the water. I expected it to be a 10 out of 10. I was hyped for it, hated that it got delayed by David Zaslav. But overall, I'm glad that it is finally out. I'm glad that people are seeing it. I'm glad it's making money. Austin Butler's performance was incredible. And so, yes, that's my real number one movie. I can't believe I actually forgot it. I guess because it came out the 1st of March and I was super busy around then. I did watch it, but I guess it's been a crazy month for me. But yes, that's my favorite movie of March. Thank you. And with those were my top 10 movies for March. So please like and subscribe if you like this video, as I will be having another one at the end of April. We got some good movies coming out in April, and I'm getting a little excited. A couple weeks we got Civil War, and next week we actually have The First Omen, which I'm very excited for, and we have Monkey Man, which I'm very, very excited for. Hoping that'll be a top 5 for sure. And so, yeah, just drop a comment down below. Let me know what your top 10 movies were in March, if you saw any. And streaming counts. Like I said, Prime Video, I put 2 movies on here. So streaming counts. If you only watch streaming, you didn't go to the theater at all, just let me know what your top 10 movies were. And I hope that you guys stick around for more, because views have kind of been down. I make movie and book reviews and book content, I guess I should say. Not really reviews. And I get so many videos recommended to me on YouTube. Literally, people doing the same thing. Like, I saw one girl, she has 3 videos up. First video was literally a book video. She's like, BookTuber newbie tag. like 5,000 views. She's got 1,000 subs already. Second video, oh, like movies, and I'm just like, it doesn't hurt you because I know my content's good. I'm still gonna keep posting. I love it. It's fun. It's just that, you know, 3 videos to get 1,000 subs, and I think I've got 50 videos, including shorts. And so it would really be much appreciated. Like I said, comment, like, support, you know, give a subscription, please. Especially if you like reviews, because I cover a couple movies every single week. Like I said, next weekend you'll get 2 reviews from me. So thank you, and with that, I'll catch you guys on the next one.